The cabin had only one bed. Then the heat went out, and my best friend whispered, "Just hold me." The first thing I noticed wasn't the silence. It was the way the old wooden cabin seemed to groan against the winter wind, as if it had been waiting years for someone to finally hear its story. I had spent months convincing myself that spending one weekend alone with my best friend Rachel wouldn't change anything between us. I was wrong. Before the snow stopped falling, before the fireplace went cold, and before the power disappeared into the dark mountains of Colorado, every wall I had built around my heart was about to collapse. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need a little hope. My name is Caleb, and Rachel had been my closest friend since our freshman year at church in Nashville, Tennessee. For nearly 12 years, we've celebrated birthdays together, encouraged each other through college, attended family gatherings, and watched each other survive heartbreak without ever crossing the invisible line between friendship and something more. Everyone around us assumed we would eventually fall in love, but life had a strange habit of pushing us in different directions whenever our hearts began asking difficult questions. The cabin trip wasn't supposed to be romantic. It had been planned months earlier as a peaceful weekend retreat before Rachel accepted a teaching position in Oregon. I had recently left a demanding engineering job after caring for my father through his illness, and we both needed one final escape before life carried us hundreds of miles apart. The cabin belonged to Rachel's uncle, tucked deep inside the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by pine trees that looked like they had stood there forever. When we finally arrived, the owner apologized over the phone. A plumbing problem had forced repairs in the guest room, leaving only one usable bedroom with one large bed. He promised extra blankets and suggested one of us sleep on the couch beside the fireplace. We laughed awkwardly, pretending it wasn't uncomfortable, because that's what lifelong friends do when emotions become dangerous territory. That evening felt strangely peaceful. We cooked soup together, played old board games, laughed about embarrassing high school memories, and watched snow pile higher against the windows. For a few hours, it almost felt like time had stopped. Then everything changed. The lights flickered once, twice, then complete darkness swallowed the cabin. The heater shut off with a soft click. Outside, the wind roared louder than before, and within an hour, the warmth inside the cabin disappeared. The fireplace helped for a while, but eventually even the fire surrendered. The temperature continued falling until our hands shook beneath thick blankets. Rachel tried pretending she wasn't cold, but I could see her shoulders trembling. I offered every blanket I could find and insisted I would sleep beside the fireplace. She refused. Neither of us wanted the other to suffer. Hours passed. The cabin became painfully cold. Then, in the quiet darkness, with nothing but moonlight spilling across the floor, Rachel looked at me with tears quietly gathering in her eyes. She wasn't frightened by the storm. She wasn't asking for romance or trying to change our friendship. She simply whispered the words no one ever expects to hear from someone they've loved silently for years. "Just hold me." There was nothing complicated about that moment. No dramatic music, no perfect timing. Only two exhausted people trying to stay warm while protecting something far more fragile than themselves. I wrapped my arms around her carefully, making sure she felt safe before anything else. The warmth wasn't immediate, but little by little the shivering stopped. We talked through the night, not about love at first, but about fear.
Rachel admitted she had spent years hiding her feelings because she never wanted to lose our friendship. I confessed I had done exactly the same thing. Every missed opportunity, every goodbye, every almost conversation suddenly made heartbreaking sense. Morning arrived with sunlight pouring across fresh snow like a promise from heaven.
Rescue crews restored power by midday, but something far more important had already returned. We had finally stopped hiding behind fear. Neither of us rushed into a relationship. Instead, we agreed to let honesty replace assumptions. Over the following months, Despite the distance between Tennessee and Oregon, we chose each other every single day. We learned that lasting love isn't built on dramatic confessions or perfect timing. It's built through trust, patience, respect, and years of choosing friendship before romance. A year later, we stood together inside our church, surrounded by family, friends, and people who had quietly prayed for us longer than we ever realized. As Rachel walked toward me, I remembered that freezing cabin where everything changed, not because of a grand romantic gesture, but because two people finally found the courage to stop pretending they didn't need each other. If this story has touched your heart so far, please leave a comment with the words, "Hope always wins." We'd love to know your thoughts, and your message may encourage someone else reading through the comments today. As we exchanged our vows, I understood something my father once told me before he passed away. He said that the strongest relationships are rarely the loudest ones. They're the quiet friendships that survive every season until one day they become home. If this story brought a smile to your face or reminded you that genuine love often begins with kindness, friendship, and courage, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who still believes in second chances. Thank you for spending these moments with us, and may you never lose hope that the people meant to stay in your life often arrive quietly and remain forever.